Stage. Ladies and gents, Ram Madhav. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Nice to see you. Lots for us to talk about, and we've already talked this morning about some of the politics, but I'm really interested in your take on what's changed and what this new mandate will mean. For those maybe in the room that aren't aware of what's changed this last few months, just give us a quick snapshot of the current position that India is in right now.
Thank you. It's first of all very important for everybody to understand the message behind this mandate properly, especially for those who see India from a distance. Obviously, this mandate is massive, but I see a very peculiar description about it in the Western media especially. This whole post-truth interpretation of this discourse, this mandate, as though it was the outcome of certain emotion, is completely missing the point about this mandate. This mandate was all about the leadership and performance. In a way, it's a unique mandate. People in India have voted for a decisive leader and a performing government. Return of Modi is not based on any simple emotion or any single incident. Some people tried to say that, sentiments of nationalism were whipped up, etc., etc. I would always say nationalism is not just a sentiment that probably you whip up at the time of the elections to garner votes. Nationalism is the very identity of our party. We proudly wear it on our sleeves. Election or no election, we have a certain view about India. So that is not something that we take out at the time of elections and use it as a wild card. This election, the sheer magnitude shows that people had faith in this leadership, wanted it to come back. Just understand the size. 230 million voters out of the people who have voted for Modi. Highest ever number of votes that any party got post-independence in India. 17 out of 29 states gave more than 50% popular vote. Now, this is not just an outcome of an emotion. This is because there was a governance model of 5 years which was purely based on delivery, successful, effective delivery. We have provided household toilets to 90 million houses in India. We have provided cooking gas facilities to 60 million Indians. Close to 230 million Indians have been the direct beneficiaries. We have introduced a clean governance model in India. Just now there was the talk about JAM Trinity, Janathan Aadhaar Mobile Trinity. JAM Trinity, which is today everywhere in India, every ordinary Indian uses it, is one new model of transparent and clean governance that we have introduced. So these are the things that influence the people across caste, across religion. People of all religions, people of all castes have voted for Prime Minister. So this mandate, I would put it as a mandate for good governance. It's not a post-truth emotions mandate. Good governance can garner votes. Good leadership can win the confidence of the people again and again, is what this mandate has shown to the world.
And on that basis, what can people expect now? With such a huge mandate, what is fair for the population, but also business, the economy, the people in this room to expect from this next government?
You see, this government is a re-elected government. That means we have to continue whatever good work we have started in the last 5 years.
What will that look like?
Some of them include we have to clean up the system in our country. We have had issues with corruption, parallel economy, etc. We have to continue that campaign to keep Indian economy robust, vibrant, cleaned of all sorts of evils. Modi too faces certain important challenges about which you also had some discussion in the previous session. For example, job creation. The world is changing very fast. We are into the era of technologies, new technologies. We have already started addressing this major issue of job creation through skilling of our population. Skill India campaigns, finding avenues of creating new jobs in the country. India has huge potential in the services industry. And the new technology era will give a lot of space for new services to come up. The question of what will happen to people who are only used to traditional ways of businesses, traditional technologies. That is where we have to find ways of retraining them. We will take up this challenge of employment in a big way in the next 4 or 5 years. We have set certain ambitious social goals. Like in India, we have homelessness as a major issue. We have decided to end the problem of homelessness in next 3 or 4 years. We have set a very ambitious goal for the size of our economy. We have to become a $5 trillion economy by 2025. Towards that end, we have to, government has to collect more revenues. We have to reform our tax structure. We have to encourage domestic investments. We are getting a lot of investments. But domestic investments component needs to be encouraged in India. That we will do in the coming years. So these are some of the major challenges that will be taken up.
What is at the top of the list in terms of tackling challenges? There are many. You've highlighted a number there. What are you most concerned about?
Economy remains the utmost priority. India has enormous potential, great opportunity. We needed to tweak a few systems. We need to bring in certain important reforms. I'm sure our government will undertake that exercise in right earnest after the immediate budget. The world over, economies in every country are facing lot of stress. We cannot be completely excluded from that, so insulated from that. But we will focus more on strengthening the Indian economic basics. We will, as I said, we will focus on issues like government revenues, issues like job creation, issues like propelling domestic investments. To that extent, how do we encourage banks to come forward? Indian banking system is facing one of its, I can say, worst phases in the recent history. We have to address the concerns of our banks. All these things need to be addressed on a priority.
What support does India need to do that? And given we're in UK-India week, where does the UK fit into that?
UK and India have been important partners for many years now. This relationship will certainly continue and it will certainly grow. India's priorities are today, in terms of its relations with the outside world, are today multi-directional. For example, we have huge stakes in our relations with the eastern neighborhood, ASEAN world. In fact, we very aggressively pursue what we call as Act East policy, because we realize that India's economic interests, India's strategic interests lie to east more today. So we are focusing on that. For example, Indian Ocean region, where even UK is also a stakeholder, not a big one, but certainly a stakeholder there, is where we are focusing in a big way. Coming back to UK-India relations, I'm sure they are on a robust, strong footing. They will continue to grow, but there are issues, domestic issues for the government in UK to settle first of all, so that we can move forward. From India said we always look for strong relations with UK.
I'm always nervous about using the B word, but does India care about Brexit?
You see, it's a purely domestic question for the British people. We will deal with it as it comes.
Pretty much. I ask purely because, I mean, you're right in talking about attention is diverted elsewhere, and this morning we've been talking all about the potential, the opportunity, the growth, the big bang moment for the Indian economy. Do you fear that Brexit means that the UK takes its eye off all international relations, never mind a lucrative and important one with India, and therefore actually what is an amazing opportunity for India right now for the economy as a whole is actually sidelined by all of the attention that the UK is giving to its domestic affairs?
In the last 5 years, we have practiced a very different policy in terms of our relations with the countries outside, which we call as dehyphenated foreign policy. We have made sure that our relations with any given country, ups and downs in it, do not affect our relations elsewhere. We value our relationship with the UK. We see lot of significance in it, lot of importance in it. Our Prime Minister has come here to be a partner with Prince Charles in Commonwealth group of nations arrangement. We are with UK in all those things, but our relations with the world outside, including countries in European Union, is nowadays either on standalone basis, on issue-to-issue basis. So I really don't see it will really impact us in any big way. What happens in UK post-Brexit debate, once Brexit debate comes to an end. We are ready to deal with UK as an independent entity or a part of the European Union again. I don't know what will happen, but in any situation, India is ready to move on.
I like the confidence of when it comes to an end. I think it's an if it comes to an end. Let's talk about some of the other issues that we discussed this morning too, vis-a-vis China and the United States. And we were talking about whether it is an either or whether it can be China and India and the United States and Europe. Which way does India pivot right now? Is it easier to do business with China or the United States?
No, we don't. As I said in our dehyphenated foreign policy, it's no longer either or. It is and also.
Can you have and also?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. India has been able to maintain its bilateral relations with China as well as America on standalone basis very well in last 5 years. Not just these two countries. We have done it with Iran on one hand and Saudi Arabia on the other hand. We have done it with Israel on one hand and the Palestine on the other hand. We have strong, robust defense and diplomatic relations with Russia, but they do not impact our relations with USA or any other European country in any manner today. See, that is where the skill or the strength of our leadership, Prime Minister Modi, lies. He has developed good personal relations with leaders of all these big countries that has helped us in overcoming many of these irritant issues. But not for a moment am I suggesting that we are not impacted by those things. For example, if today China and America have a major big trade war going on between them, I cannot claim that India is insulated from it. We are watching it, we are concerned about it, we want it to end quickly because some fallout is on us also. We are also in a mini trade war today, not any big one. So we have to deal with the situation, we are capable of doing that.
Do we have any questions from the floor? Because I want to make sure I leave plenty of time for anyone. If you've got a question, stick your hand up. I've got plenty more to ask, but I'm just going to keep an eye out for room. If you have, stick your hand up. But while we still have a little bit of time, when we look at the world economy right now, and we've touched on walls going up, barriers going up, concern about nationalism, where does India see that progressing, and sort of what are your views in where India fits into the world right now? You talk about the and policy, you can have a bit of everything, but really when walls are going up, particularly in the United States, particularly in Europe, does that policy work externally?
Today, you have seen India rising in its stature, in its importance in the world. We are there as an important partner in every major global initiative today. Whether you talk about regional initiatives or the global initiatives, global forums like G20, India is an important and inseparable part in all these arrangements today. We were at SCO middle of middle of this month. We will be at G20 later this month. India has arrived today. India is an important power the world recognizes. Even while fixing crude prices, IOC's first call might go to Washington, but the second or third call will go to Delhi. So India as an important player in the global affairs, I don't call it global politics, global affairs, is today acknowledged by all the important powers. We are an important driver in climate change initiatives post-Paris summit. India prides over it being the headquarters of the Solar Alliance, International Solar Alliance. It is headquartered at Gurgaon in Delhi. By the way, first international headquarters of any international agency to come to India was International Solar Alliance. It shows that India has arrived and India is playing an important role.
And with that in mind, do you give me a sense of the focus in terms of domestic policy and international policy? Because you talk about all the challenges internally. There's a lot of work to be done internally. That consumes a lot of resource, time and effort. How much emphasis is on domestic affairs versus what you can look at internationally?
We are, in fact, this mandate for the people who watch closely, India closely, for them I am saying this mandate has one very important, significant message for us that we don't have to bother much about politics in India for some time. We are happy. Nobody is there to challenge us. We don't have any major opposition in the parliament, even in the second term, this time also. That gives us a lot of space to focus on issues of importance, like certain important challenges, whether it is dealing with China as a challenge, although China is an opportunity, China is a challenge for us, dealing with our other neighbor with whom we have had traditionally a major problem, namely Pakistan. All these issues, we have today more scope, more freedom to operate and take things forward. We will do that. As I said, on the international arena, we are playing a very important role, but this renewed mandate should give us a good opportunity to settle some of these issues. For example, the issue with Pakistan, it gives us an opportunity to settle it in the next 4 or 5 years to the benefit of both the countries as well as the larger world. In that, of course, countries like UK, countries like USA, you are also playing a role, but not on the bilateral question between India and Pakistan. We have a policy that India and Pakistan, when it comes to issues between us, they will be handled only bilaterally. No third party intervention is required because we know better how to handle that situation. Mostly you all have romantic ideas. We are realists. We know how to deal with it. But having said it, today, why today UK also looks at the situation in Pakistan with a little concern, or US looks at it, is Pakistan's situation is no longer just a challenge for India. It has become a global challenge today. That is why you are investing your foreign policy focus on that country, which is important because for the larger global good. Having said it, UK, for its own domestic reasons, probably has a view on Pakistan, which probably is different from how we look at the relationship between India and Pakistan. These things will remain, but we will address the challenges.
Okay, fine. And there is a question just down the front. Thanks.
Madhavji, don't you think that time has come to change the slogan from Make in India to Develop in India? This is to make use of the innovation talent in India, to lead new technologies rather than become a backyard of manufacturing?
When we introduced that slogan "Make in India" 5 years ago, that also included "Develop in India." What Prime Minister has repeatedly said was India should become a leader in innovations, not just manufacturing alone. Today we are encouraging private investors to come forward to set up incubation hubs for innovation. Innovation, development, design, manufacturing. We cover all these things under our Make in India slogan. It obviously includes that. But what importantly we are saying is, don't look at India just as a market. Although India is a big market, with 600 million middle class population, India is a very attractive and potential market. But India should become not just market alone. India should become a place where you design, you develop, you manufacture and sell to the most happening world today is the world in Indo-Pacific region. That is where the economies are there. That is where the defense spending is happening. That is where the markets are there. That is where the populations are there. Where there are populations, there is economy, there is trade. So make India the hub of your activity. You are selling aeroplanes to China, manufacture in India, design in India, develop in India. India can be not just a market, but also a place from where you sell.
Ladies and gents, please put your hands together with a big thank you to Ram Mathur. Thank you. Thank you. Lovely to see you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Oh, just a quick picture. Thank you. Thank you. Really lovely to see you. Thanks very much.